It's Monday, guys. That means it's time for a Halo Q&A. So my apologies for being so late on Q&As. I know it's been a while. Essentially, the week before, I was in Seattle visiting 343 for the release of Halo Wars 2. Then when I got back, I was hit with the most aggressive cold I think that I've ever had in my life. It took about a week for me to get over it. It was ridiculous. It just kept getting worse and worse. And even now, I'm still kind of recovering. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but, hopefully it's passing now. So for those of you just joining us, the rules are very simple. All you have to do is leave your Halo-related questions in the comment section below, and hopefully they'll be answered on next week's show. And for future reference, guys, you guys are welcome in this Q&A to ask questions about my trip to Seattle. Obviously, there is some stuff I can't say, but I will try to answer everything that I can. And it could be a lot of fun. I want to share with you guys, some of the experiences that I had in the Halo Museum, talking to some of the writers, like Kenneth Peters and stuff. It was really fun meeting all the guys at 343. But let's start off with the first question. So the first question comes from Master Chief, who says, Q&A, with the confirmation that all future Halo FPS titles will feature split screen, do you think Halo Machinima will rise in popularity once again? Also, do you think Halo 5 will be remastered with split screen one day? So, with the future of split screen coming in Halo 6, yeah, it's going to make Machinima making a lot easier. Now, it depends how split screen returns, because the thing is, optimization for split screen is something that a lot of people just take for granted. Split screen is not a simple technology, and that's something that not a lot of people understand. Split screen takes a while to do, and it takes a lot of care and time to get it to work properly. It's not as simple as just cutting the screen in half and there you go. And so I'm worried that just because you see in a lot of other games, series that have continued on to Xbox One and PS4, where previously on the previous gen they were able to do 4-player split screen, now they can only do 2-player split screen. And I'm just worried that with the level of detail in modern day Halo games and stuff, 343 will only be able to squeeze 2 screens out of split screen. And that is a very realistic concern. You see a lot of modern day AAA games just barely managing to get 2-player split screen into the game. And so there's a little part of me that is worried all we're gonna see in Halo 6 is 2-player split screen, as opposed to 4-player split screen that was in all the previous Halo games. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure out how to do 4-player split screen, or they'll have the time to optimize it for 4-player split screen, but, that's just a worry that I have, and I'm hoping that my worry, will not, that it won't come to life, but, and then, in my opinion, for a Halo 5 remaster that will have split screen, I don't really see the point of remastering Halo 5. Halo 5 is only 2 years old now, and I think that it's a little bit kind of premature to talk about, the possibility of a remaster in the future with split screen. What I think will happen with Halo 5 going forward, let's say 10 years from now, alright? So we'll probably be on another Xbox generation. Probably just what we're gonna see is Halo 5, the Halo 5 that we have nowadays, but now it's just playable on the next-gen console. I think 343 is done with, full-blown remasters and adding new features and stuff. And also, another thing to think about is that when it comes to remastering the games and stuff, 343 is one studio, and so the thing about them is they have their sights focused on, Halo 6 or something. When you notice that a lot of, something that you probably don't notice is a lot of Halo spin-off games, they're outsourced to different people. The MCC was outsourced to somebody else. Halo CE Anniversary, that was done by another studio and stuff. The Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike games, those were done by a different studio. Halo Wars 2, different studio and stuff. Basically, 343 is not big enough to tackle multiple game projects all at once. They've gotta, be smart. They've gotta focus on one game and one game only. That's why, and you see a lot of companies do it. with Infinite Warfare for Activision, you saw that what happened was Infinity Ward made Infinite Warfare, but Raven Software, they did the remaster of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, because Infinity Ward could not make 2 games at once. And so that's kind of what happens with 343. They outsource a lot of the spin-offs and remasters to different studios because they can't make 2 games at once. That takes resources that they could be spending on a mainline Halo game away from that project. And so I feel like with Halo 5, what would just be smart for them is instead of like outsourcing it to a different studio and having to bring that studio in and train them on the Halo 5 engine, you know, and then have like all this QA testing and stuff and just like basically build a remaster from the ground up of Halo 5, it would just be smart to translate Halo 5 onto new hardware just so that it could run on like the next generation of console, you know, whatever that is. So I hope that answers your question, ma'am. We're gonna move on to a question from 117 HDK Films. So in order to make this simple, I am just going to summarize his question so I don't read it in its entirety and waste time. Essentially, he's giving me suggestions on how 343 could maybe balance the Elite gameplay so that they can include Elites in Halo 6 or something, because Elites are taller than Spartans. In my opinion, though, the problem with this is changing up the Elite gameplay dramatically will kind of break the point of Halo, which is even starts for everybody across the board. Reach began to kind of experiment where the Elites got different HUDs, and if you picked up Covenant weapons, they kind of like had a bonus as long as you were using an Elite player model. And the problem with this, I think, is that it starts to move Halo towards a class-based system that Halo really isn't. Like, Halo is all about the even starts. Everyone has the same starts and stuff. Everyone is equal across the board. In my opinion, just really the best thing that you can do with the Elites is try to make their hitboxes as close to the Spartans' hitboxes as possible. Now, that definitely will not be entirely possible because the Elites have different body structures, but Bungie tried their best to do it with Halo 2 and Halo 3, and obviously, like, it wasn't flawless, but the best thing that you could do with that is just keep the Elites in social game modes and stuff. For the competitive ranked game modes, it's exclusively Spartans, that way everybody is the same across the board. And with the social game modes, yeah, the hitboxes may be a little bit wonky, but at least it's close to being equal. Just overall, I think it would be very unwise to kind of give the Elites their own bonuses and stuff that the Spartans don't have to try to balance it out, because like I said, it would be a step towards a class-based Halo system that I don't think Halo really needs. That being said, though, this is a good question that was brought up, because ever since Elites were introduced into Halo 2, there's always been this ongoing discussion about how balanced the Elites are in the multiplayer. Like in Halo 3, for example, everybody knows how frustrating it was to deal with the Elites, because when they had their backs to you, it was almost impossible to land a headshot. So discussing good ways to balance Elite players that won't, like, kind of separate Halo into a class system, like you're playing the Spartan class or the Elite class, like figuring out ways to make the Elites balanced is a good discussion to be having. So thank you for asking this question, and we are going to move on to the next one. So the next question comes from Tanner Niper. So to summarize it, basically his question is asking if kind of, for Halo 6, maybe to make it a little bit deeper and more emotional, the story, he's asking me if they should kill off a character. His suggestion is actually that they should kill off Lasky for kind of like emotional pull in the story, and then he's hoping that Mendicant Bias would be the real antagonist revealed in Halo 6. So if you guys don't know who Mendicant Bias is, essentially back during the Forerunners era, when the Flood invaded the galaxy, and basically the Forerunners were kind of losing the war and they were building the Halo rings as a last resort, they developed this artificial intelligence system called Mendicant Bias, and the goal of Mendicant Bias was to protect the Forerunners, but essentially the Gravemind came into contact with mendicant bias, and the thing about the Gravemind is it is so intelligent, it was able to convince this sophisticated Forerunner AI system to defect and work with the Flood against the... It was able to convince mendicant bias that the Flood are the logical next step in evolution. And essentially, mendicant bias was instrumental in the downfall of the Forerunners, and he felt terrible about it, so sad. And actually, in Halo 3, when you get to the Ark, you can find terminals, and mendicant bias will actually be communicating with Master Chief and kind of telling him the history. Like, on Halo 3, you kind of learn a little bit about the Didact and the Librarian and some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes during the Forerunner Flood War. And essentially, kind of, mendicant bias knows that there's no retribution for what he did, but he hopes to maybe, like, initiate the first steps of making up what he did, like, you know, making it up to humanity for the sins that he committed. And he's actually partially responsible for why Master Chief was able to escape on that epic Warthog run. He made sure that the Halo ring was exploding in a certain way so that Master Chief had a clear path to the Forward Unto Dawn. It's really cool, actually, if you read a lot of the terminals in Halo 3. But with mendicant bias, I was actually really hoping that we'd see him in Halo Wars 2, just given that, like, he's on the Ark, and Halo Wars 2 takes place on the Ark, so it would be really cool if we could see mendicant bias, see what he was up to. But no, we didn't see him in Halo Wars 2, and that's really disappointing. And going with what Bonnie Ross said at the DICE Summit 2017 talks about a week ago, where she was kind of like, Halo will have simpler stories, we're going to try to keep the outside lore away from the games in order to make the stories in games less confusing. I'm worried that we won't be seeing mendicant bias in the future, at least in the video games. It just, like, it worries me, like, and it's kind of sad that this is the way that Halo is because of the backlash to Halo 4 and Halo 5, but, I mean, hey, as long as, like, the stories are a lot easier to follow for most people, then, you know, I'll be happy. I'll be disappointed, personally, but it's like, whatever. You know, it's for the betterment of the Halo series, but personally, I would like to see mendicant bias explored a little bit, at least in the books and stuff, because I want to see where that character goes. And then, for your question about, like, emotional pull and if they should kill off a character, personally, for me, in Halo 6, I'm a little bit tired of characters being killed off. God, I guess if a character did have to be killed off, I guess, now this is gonna sound weird, but I would like it to be one of Blue Team, and not because I despise Blue Team and stuff, no, it's just because, like, I feel like that would hit home to Master Chief really hard if one of his own was killed by Cortana, and it would, like, feel as, we gotta stop her, blah, 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 like, this is a adventure story. Personally, I just hope Halo 6 is, like, a simple story. Like, I don't want it to try to tug at my heartstrings or anything, because I don't care about Cortana being evil. I just don't care. I hate the current situation that the Halo story is in terms of, like, Cortana being a generic evil AI overlord. So I'm hoping Halo 6 does not try to pretend it's deeper than it actually is, because currently I hate where the story is. I just hope it gets itself over with, and the levels are a lot of fun to play. That's just my opinion. So the next question comes from Brendan Dow Music Video Production, who says, Yo, Late Night Gaming, I'm a big fan of your videos, keep up the good work. Also, my question I have for you is, what armor customization would you like to see return from the older Halo games? Like, where you could have different pieces of armor put together as one, unlike Halo 5, where you can only change the body and helmet. In my opinion, I hope for more customization to return in the future of Halo. What do you think of this? So I completely agree. I really dislike Halo 5's armor customization. I think it's, like, I just think it's objectively bad. Like, it hurts a lot that there are so many armors, and a lot of them are just reskins of already existing armors. I think that the fact that there's no black undersuits really hurts the armors as well, because it makes them all mesh into one color, and it just looks like an Iron Man suit, as opposed to individual pieces of armor that are being put on top of a black, like, suit that you're wearing. It kind of takes away from the identity of your individual pieces of the armors, and just overall, like, it's a considerable downgrade. Personally for me, I'd like something at the level of Halo Reach in terms of customization. The credit system was very grindy in Halo Reach, and, you know, after Halo 5, I'm sick of grinding. I'm sick of grinding and saving up credits / rec points or whatever, and so it's gonna sound weird, but, like, Halo 4, I liked as, like, a modern-day Halo customization. Now, I don't like any of the armors in Halo 4. I didn't particularly even enjoy Halo 4's multiplayer. But I did appreciate that you could unlock different armors and stuff in Halo 4, and it was kind of like Reaches, just without the grinding for rec points and stuff, or credits. And so what I kind of like to see is something where it's like Halo 4, where it's like you're not grinding for, like, credits because certain armors are super expensive and you have to play many games in order to save up money for them. But I would like to see something at the level of Halo Reach, where not only can you find helmets, you can also put things on the sides of your helmets, or things on your hip or your wrist or something, like, just stuff like that, where it's fun, there's lots of customization to it and stuff. Ultimately, like, Halo 6 has a lot to make up for when it comes to armor customization, given how disappointing Halo 5 was in that regard. And finally, we are going to conclude this with Wolfcam02, Xbox, Skype, Steam, and TeamSpeak. Q&A. Do you think that 343 could make Halo class-based? Like, have the Halo 5 suits with thrusters on them, have the Halo Reach suits with armor abilities, and have the slow Halo 1-3 suits with dual wielding. Now, see, that's an interesting idea for a spin-off Halo game. In the mainline Halo games, I don't want to see Halo become a class-based system, because Halo needs to be Halo at the end of the day. Like, the no loadouts, everyone has even starts, like, that's what Halo is. But as some kind of interesting spin-off, or hey, maybe even a possible idea for Warzone. Because the thing is, like, with Warzone, actually, if you guys remember from my stay at 343, Grim and I, we kind of, like, hung out after the party, and we talked a lot about Halo and stuff. We were just kind of, like, talking about Reach and how the armor abilities were interesting, if not, like, the best implemented in the multiplayer, and we also talked a bit about Warzone, and we kind of spitballed to each other, like, how we would design Warzone and what could be kind of interesting, and Grim had a really cool idea where he was like, so in Warzone, you know how you've got, like, the little classes, like the little perks and stuff, the way you can get, like, I think it's called Dexterity, where it speeds up your weapon handling and stuff like that. He's like, well, what if, like, in Warzone, before you actually deploy, you could actually select, like, a class of Spartan? Wouldn't that be kind of interesting? And that got me thinking, like, for Warzone, that could be interesting, to take the armor loadouts that you can get in Warzone once you reach Rec Level 5, I think, and be able to actually, like, choose it. Kind of, I think of similar to Battlefield or the old Star Wars Battlefront games, where you have classes to pick from, Spartan classes. Just something like that, and it could be very similar to what you just said, where you've got a Halo 5 Spartan who has, like, the enhanced mobility and thrusters, or the Reach Spartan who has armor abilities. Or just something like that. Like, it could be really interesting. That might be an interesting idea that you're onto there. Personally, for me, I wouldn't like to see it in the mainline Halo games in traditional Slayer, but I would not mind if that idea was taken and experimented a bit with in some kind of spin-off game mode or a spin-off Halo. So guys, thank you so much for asking all of your questions. Later this week, I will be uploading my analysis of Halo Wars 2's story, because I do have a lot of opinions on it, both positive and a little bit negative. So expect that, and ultimately, guys, thank you so much for asking all of your questions. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll definitely be uploading a lot more because I'm feeling, like, a lot better. But, you know, thank you guys, keep on being awesome, and I'll see you guys on the next video.